Hey guys, it's Bailey. Welcome back to the channel and thanks so much for tuning in. Today's video is going to be a lot of things actually. First of which is a review of all of these shades from the new Jelly Much eyeshadow collection from Colourpop. It's also going to be, at the request of a few of you guys, a comparison between this formula because it is, as you could probably guess from the name if you didn't know already from everyone who's been talking about it, it's a jelly texture, and so I'm going to be comparing that texture and performance of these to a couple of other similar or maybe just comparable textures already out there. And then last, I am going to frankenshadow these. In case you're unfamiliar with the series that I have going on this channel, it's basically where I combine all of the shades in previously it's pretty much been palettes, but at the request again of one of you guys, you suggested mixing all these shades together to see what shade we would get. So first let's start with the shadows themselves. There are 8 shades within this collection. Each of them retails for $8 a piece. However, if you buy them all together like I did, you save $4. So instead of paying $64 for all 8 of them, you just pay $60, not just pay. It's not an insignificant amount of money, but you do save the $4 in buying the bundle. The collection promises super high intensity pigmentation and no crease wear throughout the day, which I personally love out of my cream/gel formulas. I don't dislike having to prime because I'm used to doing it with powder eyeshadow, but there's something about a cream or gel shadow that just doesn't need a primer, where it's just a one and done, you apply it across your lid and you're good to go for the day. It's like the conditions are perfect for a 5-minute face. You know what I'm saying? I love products that contribute to a good, pulled together looking 5-minute face. And then within the collection of shades, there are a few different finishes. Specifically, I'm just reading off of the website right now. It says there are chrome, duochrome, and holographic finishes, so we will dive into that as we get into each shade. Speaking of, let's just go ahead and do that. Starting first with Ventura. This is one that they say is a holographic opal with a violet duochrome flip. I would definitely agree with the latter, but not really the former. It's not holographic, especially for those of you who are strict holosexuals. This is definitely a duochrome. It has a pearly or opalescent base with that strong violet shift, but it by no means gives you the multicolor chromatic experience of a holographic pigment or color or combination of colors. You get what I'm trying to say. It is by far the sheerest shadow from this whole collection. As you layer it up, I found it could get a little bit patchy just because in some places it would remain sheer and in other places the base would build up to be more of a stronger white cast with less of a purple shift. So of all the shades, that one was a little bit patchy, but it is also the only one that has the strongest duochrome or iridescent shift to it. Next is the shade Once and Floral, spelled floral, but like the phrase once and for all, so that's why I say it like that. This says it's a metallic, bright, pinky copper, and that's exactly how I would describe it, but in the pot it looks a whole lot more fiery. Like there's a lot of golds when you look at it in the pot, but when it actually swatches, what I found anyway, and I think you'll see this in the application that I play over here, it really shows up as more of a pink. Like when it's sheared out, when it's built up, I personally lost a lot of the golden fiery undertones there, and it pulled more of a straight vibrant pink on me. Not bad, but something you should consider as you might see close-ups in this video where you can see some of those stronger yellow undertones. It really does not translate, or I didn't find it translated like that on my skin tone. Then on to Half Moon. This is described as a plum with a frosty green and blue flip. I think that is a pretty accurate description, and personally one of my favorite shades from the bunch because it gives you that oil slick eye look and how it is very multidimensional, has all those different colors present in here, but there's not a whole lot of work in actually using 3 to 4 eyeshadows and a lot of blending to pull that oil slick eye look off. I love a single shadow that can do that, and I feel like Half Moon does that really well. The next shade I want to talk about is Foxes, and I actually also want to talk about this in comparison to the shade Origami. Both are golden, but both have very, very different undertones, and before I bought this and I was just seeing these shades online, and as I look at these shades now, I think they don't look as different as they are online as they actually are in real life. So I think the difference is coming across on camera, but just in case it's not, felt the need to talk about them at the same time. So Foxes is described as a rich amber gold. The first word that came to my mind though when I saw this was marigold. It's like a bright orangey kind of gold shade, whereas Origami is more of a true primary sunshiny kind of gold, and they describe it just as a metallic bright yellow gold. And that's exactly what it is. So I hope those differences are coming across on the camera. Both of them apply and wear really well in terms of lasting power, so there's really no difference there. It was just wanted to emphasize the difference in tone of yellow. Next up is Short Circuit. This is described as a metallic bronze copper, which I think is pretty spot on. It is a very warm leaning copper though, like lots of red undertones here, so some bronzes can be a little bit more neutral, brown, and those I think people tend to think are a little bit more safe. They're hesitant to put red around their eyes because it can make you look sickly, and so if you hear metallic bronze and think this is going to be the shade for you, just know it really does have a stronger red undertone than some bronze shadows out there might. So just something to consider if this shade was kind of calling your name and you're thinking it's more of a neutral bronze. Definitely one of those warm tone coppery bronzes. Moving on to Bungalow, they describe this as a metallic peacock teal. I'd say that's a pretty spot on description. Like all of the shades in this collection, with the exception of Ventura, this, applies super pigmented at the first swipe. When you blend it out, it does lose some of its opacity like all of these do, but they're all, for the most part, again, except for Ventura, are layerable. And the last shade is called Wee Jammin'. They described this as a metallic soft gold, and I would say it is more of a metallic cream with a gold undertone or shift almost. Like, I would not consider this a gold in any sense of the word. It's more so the undertone that I read from it. And this, for anyone who's looking at this collection thinking, I wish there were more neutral wearable shades in here, I think Wee Jammin' is going to be the shade for you if you want to dip your toe into this style of eyeshadow, because it can be sheared out to be, one of the, like a softer iridescent creamy gold across the lids, like a gorgeous wash of color across the lids, or also built up to be something more intensely pigmented and dramatic on the lid, whereas a few of these others, are just very bold in their color, in their finish and their color, and so you're gonna have a hard time. I would have a hard time toning those down for what I would consider to be an everyday look. So if you're looking at this collection like, what's kind of the safe shade I can reach for, I think this would be a good one for you. So now that we've talked colors, let's cover off on performance. I really dropped a lot of tidbits, I feel like, here as I was talking about the shades, but just to recap, overall, these applied very well, with the exception of Ventura. Just understand, when I say they, I pretty much mean all of these except for Ventura, in that I did experience that slight spottiness with building it and how it was a little bit patchy in some places. That is not the case for any of the other shades in this collection. They all can be built to be completely opaque, extremely metallic looking, easily blended and feathered in the crease, although I personally found that I like to apply a crease shade before applying these. I tried it a few different ways, but that's the way I found worked best for me, just to have that best friend blending shade throughout the crease. But if you don't need that, they do give you plenty of time to work with them before they fully dry down, to let you blend throughout the crease without that extra eyeshadow shade to help you there. And then, true to the claim on the website, I did not find these creased on me at all, but I did find they crumbled a little bit. The thing is though, I'm not sure if it is because of the formula or if it was because of the wear on me personally. Unfortunately, I found these itched my eyes so much during wear, whether I applied them by themselves, applied a primer underneath. Once I applied it in my, like under my outer corner and over the top of my outer corner, my eyes just wouldn't stop watering. It kind of felt like there was something in my eye. And so as a result, throughout the day, I was kind of pulling and tugging at my eye area, trying really carefully not to touch the eyelid itself to try and not compromise the wear test. But I also am not sure if kind of pulling and tugging like I did throughout the day contributed to some of that fallout. So kind of a twofold bummer for me that I don't know if these flake as a formula, and that I also just don't think I will be wearing these ever again beyond this frankenshadow test that we do at the end of the video, because there's not one of these shades that doesn't make my eyelids itch, unfortunately. And especially when I have some other formulas that I'm about to talk about here, comparing this formula to, that don't itch my eyelid, I just don't see a need for these for me personally when I have those alternatives in my life. So these will find good homes with friends and family, but also something to be aware of if you have sensitive eyes. I don't find I do particularly have sensitive eyes. It's just these did not sit well with me. So there you have it. Speaking of formula comparisons, let's jump into those now. You guys specifically had questions about how they compared to the Butter London Glazin eyeglosses. And the eyeglosses are a little bit more of a wet formula, and because of that, I find that these are a lot easier to pick up on a brush if you want to apply them. With the Colourpop, I applied them both with my finger and a brush. I like the brush better because it gives me a little bit more precision when blending out. But because the texture of these is so much thicker, I mean, it really is almost like a gel mousse consistency almost. So I really didn't find a brush that picked up a good amount of product with just one dip in the pot. It took a lot more blending and dipping and blending and dipping and building up of that shadow when using a brush versus just using my finger. But with a finger, it lacks the precision. Like to get, and because these are such bold colors, when I get like product in my inner corner, it was just a hot mess if I wasn't using a brush. So there was that kind of learning curve to the application that I didn't find I experienced with the Butter London Glazin eyeglosses. However, the eyeglasses are just kind of a different eyeshadow animal. They are much more glittery, whereas the Colourpop are more on the metallic side overall. The glosses give you more of a wet look, even though they also dry down to be a completely dry finish. I think because it has all of that chunkier shimmer in there, it just gives you that more of a glossy eye look versus the metallic of the Colourpop. And actually, as I was looking through all of the other different eyeshadow formats I found that the closest texture match was in the Charlotte Tilbury Eyes to Mesmerize collection, which is, if you've been watching the channel for a couple years now, one of my favorite eyeshadow formulas ever, period. Done. These are just true one and done shadows. They come in the most flattering, elegant, like easy to wear shades ever. This shade I have in particular is called Marie Antoinette, but I find this formula in general is a little bit easier to apply with a brush. Then again, it could be because the shades, like I said, are more forgiving over skin tones. Like blending a beige is a lot easier to blend over a skin tone than blending a teal, you know? There is just that element too. But overall, if you have experience with the Eyes to Mesmerize formula, I think you'll find this is a closer match to the Colourpop, although not completely identical. That said, Charlotte Tilbury is a lot more expensive than Colourpop, so to the extent you want to dip your toe into this sort of jelly eyeshadow texture, Colourpop would be a nice way to do that. All right, now let's get to the frankenshadow. So I have taken a little metal scooper here and applied this actually over one of those plastic inserts that comes in a palette because I cannot find my acrylic mixing palette anywhere. So we're making do with what we have, and I'm just taking the teensiest dollop of all of these and mixing them together. One thing I think I forgot to mention about these is that a little goes such a long way. Like these truly are super pigmented eyeshadows that will last you such a long time, even if you use them every day, because you just need so little to get a huge pigment payoff. And I have to say, as I was putting all of these shades together on the palette, I truly had no idea what to expect in terms of the outcome. In fact, pause this video right now and let me know in the comments what you think the outcome will be, because it truly shocked me having all of these vibrant shades between bright teal, blue with greeny teal shifts, marigold, all these different colors. I was expecting like a super deep gray color, not an attractive gray color, like kind of a blah gray color. So pause it, let me know what you think it's gonna be right now in the comments below. Okay, and now that we're back and heading towards the shade this actually creates, I have to say, I so wish they would have included this in the actual collection of shades, because this is what my go-to shade would be from this collection every day. Yes, it's kind of boring because ultimately it is kind of like a rose gold bronze, but it is nothing like the shade that I expected would come out of this, and it is absolutely my comfort zone when it comes to eyeshadow. So let me know what you think of it in the comments below. Okay, so now that we've mixed the color up, let's zoom in and apply it. So the brush I have found most helpful in applying this has been the Real Techniques base shadow brush, and I like it because of that tapered tip. It helps me get into that inner corner, but it's also fluffy enough to do the blending out here in the event that I don't want to do a crease color. It's a lot easier to layer pigment up, but also blend out when necessary. So that's what I'm gonna use today, is a clean one of those. And you can see actually, once I've mixed these together, maybe the key is to mixing them all together, because this is the most product I've ever had picked up on this brush in applying any of these to my eyes. So maybe a hot tip, give these a little bit of a mixeroo and you might have a little bit of a better luck applying them with a brush. Let's go. Ooh. Yeah, this is, oh, they should so add this to, oh, I do have a little, okay, I don't know if this dried out in the time that it sat, but I have a little bit of a, oh no, where did that go? Anywho, clumps aside, this, oh, is such a gorgeous color. It might be my favorite one from the collection. And see, I just never would have thought of, you know, teal and purple and iridescent violet giving me this kind of an eye look. So there it is blended out. Let's try and really build up the metallic finish across the lid. I mean, I pretty much expect it to be able to do that, even if it's mixed, because it's all still roughly the same formula. Yeah, this is such an easy formula to apply once it is just a little bit blended. This is going to be my downfall right here, applying it in my under eye area, because that is where it itches the most. And you know what happens when something on your body itches and you absolutely can't scratch it? It's all you think about until you can scratch it. There is a little bit of blending out I feel like I need to do here. So I'm just taking a clean brush, again, another Real Techniques, and just going and buffing that edge out. All right, so that is the frankenshadow applied. I think it's really, really gorgeous. While I am bummed that I will likely never wear this again just because of the itch factor on my eyes, I am happy to say that it is surprisingly close. Obviously very much warmer than Marie Antoinette, but I feel like there is a shade similar to this within the Charlotte Tilbury Eyes to Mesmerize collection. So fortunately, I am not totally without the shade in my collection, especially in this formula, which is part of the appeal, being able to layer up this high shine metallic finish without, you know, with crease-free, flake-free wear. Well, not with this, but you get what I'm saying. But for everyone who might have the shades in this collection and wonder if it is worth the effort of mixing them all, I would say yes. Or if you just enjoyed watching this, then mission accomplished. I hope you enjoyed watching all these shades mixed together, as well as seeing a review of the collection and comparisons to the other similar shadow formulas out there. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please let me know if I missed, if you still have questions about this, let me know in the comments below. I tried to answer everything as best I could, but I always forget something inevitably. So let us know down in the comments and maybe me or somebody else can help you out with them. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye guys!